Hello and welcome back everyone, we Weeb Online, and today I'm gonna continue the story What If Kid Naruto Was Trained by Future Naruto Part 6. If you enjoy this video, please give it a big thumbs up, and to watch more videos like this, subscribe to my channel and turn that bell notification on so you never miss an upload. Now wasting no more time, let's begin.
Hitaki Tsukumo. Although Han was partially controlled by Obito's Sharingan Eye, much like he had previously controlled the Ondaime Mazuka Jigura, Han remained Han. Why is a Konoha shinobi still alive in front of me? It was exactly the same for the White Fang. He was still the same person even in Edo Tensei form. Not necessarily alive, if you'd notice. With a quick side glance, Han saw that his opponent was relentlessly pursuing him, regardless of where he fled, leaving him with little time to speak. A skilled Raiden user. Han muttered, staring at the swift first Raikage. And you, the White Fang, also specialize in Raiden. In the space of a few seconds, Sakuma threw two lightning jutsu at the Jinchuriki, who shunshined to the left and right by a few inches. The Hitaki smiled, Fuden, as well. You didn't dodge that entirely, Han-san. Indeed, Sakumo's jutsu managed to rip off Han's right arm's armor without actually hurting him. Gasu Shidzu. Han's whole body erupted in smoke, vanishing into thin vapor trails surrounding Tsukumo. His voice could be heard surrounding Kakashi's father a few moments later, saying, "Be careful, White Fang. You might just die." Tsukumo frowned and cocked his head, saying, "Again, I already am. Perhaps you should know that I cannot die, Han-san. My strategy will include the fact." Both of them heard the explosions and eruptions from the battle between the Showdown Raikage and Roshi, as Han's voice reverberated throughout the clearing. "It is true this jutsu usually cuts off your oxygen, but I will use it differently. Seeing as you have no need to breathe." Tsukumo nodded, happy that his message was understood. He didn't want to give up too soon in this fight. He was the kind of shinobi who always knew his opponent's strategy and took advantage of it, thinking, good, a restriction jutsu might just work. Sweden, Taiju Ninjin Bakuden. As he unleashed a barrage of water bullets from his mouth all around him, Kisame knelt slightly. Samahata was rapidly providing him with additional chakra. Kisame laughed as Sasori came up behind him, saying, "Interesting jutsu. Deidara might just get jealous. He is the jealous type, after all." The man who resembled a shark performed a very macabre jutsu. Although a significant amount of chakra was required, the outcomes were rewarding. Kisame could turn people into walking human water bombs by injecting some of his chakra into them with water-infused chakra bullets. Naturally, it had to fulfill certain conditions, such as the opponent having a low chakra presence, akin to that of a Chunin. But in a hard battle, even the most formidable adversaries may succumb to Chunin-level chakra presence when faced with hardship. Currently, the majority of their opponents were Chunin. As shinobi all around them continued to burst into bloody showers, Sasori walked past the Sharkman and said, "I don't see why you would use such an obvious kinjutsu against these incompetent fools." The puppeteer pointed both of his palms at a small scroll that floated in front of him and spat it out. Kisame smiled as the enormous wave of fire annihilated any last resistance in front of him. Food and chakra had caused the scroll to explode outward, igniting the fire. But Sasori's puppet face prevented any expression of satisfaction. "Of course, you have the chakra needed for it. I prefer to use no chakra at all." They both realized that they were a good match. Uchiha Obito peered down at Orochimaru's lifeless body. Even though it consumed a significant portion of his chakra, he didn't feel like playing around with someone as cunning as Orochimaru. All he did was send different parts of his body to locations he didn't care for using Kamui. The Uchiha were certain that at least one Orochimaru remained alive despite Orochimaru's complete defeat. It was really painful to deal with those curse seals that contained his life energy. "Zetsu, try to find out if there are any other doppelgangers of this snake vermin around. He needs to be disposed of, he knows too much." Its head appeared near Obito's sandals. Of course. Most of them are dead already, courtesy of Hidan and Kakuzu. Those two were late, but at least they're useful. Hidan's got a lot of people under his control at the moment. Zetsu laughed. He's really having fun. I'm positive. Obito knelt down and examined Orochimaru's remaining parts. His left side of the torso and half of his face. Yes, a right foot was still laying around. He used a small Kaiden jutsu to burn everything. Deidara was above them, hurling bombs everywhere, and someone asked, "What about Itachi?" Not too long after, Akatsuki would rule over Otogakure. "What about me?" When Obito looked back, he saw Itachi appear behind him as a few crows. The younger Uchiha continued to make Obito very nervous, as sneaky as ever, Itachi-kun. Even though Itachi was a member of Akatsuki, he might still pose the greatest threat to him. I trust you've done the necessary things? Here Itachi gave Obito Orochimaru's ring, which he called the ring. That also meant that everything organic had been destroyed. The underground has been completely destroyed. All the tunnels are no more. All experiments are destroyed. Otogakure, all of it, will fall in 1 hour. If Itachi's Shoraizu was already able to see that far ahead, then his eyes were growing stronger and stronger. Even Obito was unaware of the special methods used to obtain this Jujutsu. Losses? The Jinchuriki Han. We'll have to intervene within 10 minutes if we are to keep him with us. He is fighting the White Fang. Hey. The White Fang. Obito muttered as the three started to lumber in the direction of the sounds of combat. Obito's eyes grew stern as he recalled previous incidents. Let's deal with him. The fact that his opponent had resisted his attack impressed him a little. He would need to exert more effort. There were 2 damaged former semi-Jinchuriki standing in front of Kabuto. Kinkaku, it seems we are facing an Uzumaki. With a somber expression, his sibling nodded his head. I hate fighting Uzumaki. They always know more about our weapons than we do. As Kabuto was gathering himself up, he was taken aback by the comment. In their chakra cloak form, the twins had carried out the attack on his behalf. However, despite that defense, Nagato's attack still struck him. The red-haired Uzumaki casually walked forward and said, Kinkaku and Ginkaku. I will be taking that vile chakra inside of you. He was a very powerful man. Usually, since they were stronger than their opponents, they would play around and joke around, but this time, they were both very serious. It is improper to play around with Uzumaki people. Brother, I think we should. Shinra Tensai. Nagato was no longer dependent on his body to activate the gravitational force. Instead, he could now select the center on his own. The center of it this time was the little area between Ginkaku, Kinkaku, and Kabuto. Now that the three had split apart, Ginkaku and Kinkaku were already beginning to regenerate, while Kabuto stayed down. Hovering forward, Nagato aimed his left hand at Ginkaku and his right at Kinkaku, saying, You have no chance here, surrender. The sudden black rods that shot out of Nagato's sleeves were avoided by both. He had on the traditional Akatsuki cloak. Nagato saw the Benihasago and narrowed his eyes. The gourd that, should he utter the words he spoke most frequently, would be able to take his soul. But he was no fool. He was well aware of the words he should avoid using moving forward. It indicated that he was briefly down 1 jutsu. Ultimately, the terms that he utilized the most were Shinra Tensai. Or God, perhaps. The wielder of Rinnegan shook his head at the futility of it all. It was just irrelevant. Banshu Tenon. The legendary weapons that Kinkaku and Ginkaku were wielding also vanished from their hands and into Nagato's in the same swift motion. There's no need for these. He prepared to strike again after dispatching every one of them with a minor Shinra Tensai. Do you see the futility now? Kabuto, meanwhile, had regained his balance. He had to flee in the middle of the fight since he was clearly out of his league here. Thus, Obito and Orochimaru managed to get past the barrier enclosing this area. Madan Ninjutsu. He executed the Edo Tensai in a flash, but without revealing the personality of the summoned. As Ginkaku and Kinkaku kept an amused-looking Nagato somewhat occupied, Kabuto turned his attention to his recently summoned undead subordinate. Take me as far as possible from this place. Namikaze Minato, who had no personality assigned to him, cocked his head slightly, attempting to detect the Hiraishin Kanai that was the furthest from the location. Taro no Kokima, he muttered. It should be far enough, the island of Taro, the glasses-wearing Nin said, pushing them up. Kabuto's eyes widened as Nagato allowed Kinkaku and Ginkaku's bodies to collapse into a tiny ball of trash, saying, Naya Tensai. Quick. As the Yondaime and Kabuto disappeared using Hiraishin, the Uzumaki growled. Sounds from behind him informed him that Ginkaku and Kinkaku had begun to regenerate. Annoying fly. He made a motion with his hands and spoke. Kuyaku Tensai. Nagato dropped his head, realizing that the 2 semi-Jinchuriki were now imprisoned in a chakra barrier akin to the water prison technique. That slimy little fool actually got away from me. I can't sense him anywhere close. The Uchiha appeared by using Kamui and approached the Uzumaki from behind, saying, He summoned Minato-sensei. Very smart of him. Glancing around, he declared, The bigger threat has been dealt with. Otogakure is ours. Ginkaku and Kinkaku were floating in a chakra bubble in midair. There were still a few of Orochimaru's subordinates in the vicinity. The real leader of Akatsuki smiled at the two semi-Jinchuriki. Let's add to our army with these failures around us. Because little chakra was all over Suigetsu's body, he was actually hiding quite well in the midst of the chaos. Not even Nagato, with his Rinnegan, could see him clearly. Kabuto has two versions of the Edo Tensei. I think I'll be hunting for him for a while. He mentioned the island of Taro. Doubt consumed him as Obito activated his teleportation technique. Don't bother. I think I'll send Itachi after him. He has a jutsu suited for a mad fool like Kabuto. This was far too simple. I hope we killed you all, Orochimaru. That was rather disappointing. He had lost a great deal of his puppets in this battle, and he had even expended some of the meager remaining chakra in his body, but he still supported his friend. Taking something from a coward was not a challenge. It was not Kisame who asked, "Is there anyone left?" but rather a newcomer who had just approached them. The third man sat down on a boulder and opened a small duffel bag, saying, "No one who matters." He had entrapped quite a few Edo Tensei shinobi, but it would be unlikely that those carried any money on them. I took a lot of wallets. Hopefully these losers had money where they lacked the strength. Nor did any of the opponents he had faced possess legendary items. With a laugh, the shark-shaped man among the three joined the masked Kakuzu. "So, how many did you kill?" Kakuzu began to consider it. "I don't know, 30 maybe?" But soon came to the conclusion that it didn't really matter. "I'm not Hidan, Kisame. I don't care how many I kill, I care about how much money I've found." Sasori added as he called forth a puppet to sit on. Hidan's still playing with a few of his cursed victims. He's got 7 locked down. It's like a party. In the meantime, they could still hear explosions all around them. Deidara and Hidan sure like mayhem. The three of them watched Zetsu rise from the ground and declare, "We're done. Orochimaru is dead." The others concurred with Kisame, saying, "Well, I'd hope so. I've killed him at least 3 times. Weird copies. Who did him in?" Zetsu answered, "Obito separated his body." Kisame laughed. "There might still be some left to eat though." Itachi had seemingly materialized behind Kisame, saying, "They've already returned. Nagato wants us to stay in Otogakure while he returns with Obito. He's sending a nin this way and Conan is to rule over Oto. We are her protection." For him, it had been an extremely strange week. Confined to bed for a fortnight, there was always someone else waiting to greet him when he woke up. He usually expected his team to be there, and they were, but occasionally the strangest people showed up. He didn't anticipate Sasuke reading a book in his hospital room, but he did sort of expect Kakashi to be there, reading his book. For some reason, he was a little disappointed that it wasn't Icha. Even Hayate and Yugo paid him a visit, after he hadn't seen them in months. There were moments when the elderly man, Sarutobi Hiruzen, smoked his pipe and half hung out the window. Sakura paying close attention to Tsunade. Among them are Shikamaru, sleeping in the chair, his noisy crew, loud Ino, and naturally, the Choji who was eating. Along with the raucous Kiba and Shino, he occasionally woke up to the sight of a feverish-looking Hinata, whose long hair he thoroughly approved of. Naturally, there was Iruka, with whom he truly needed to make up. But he woke up alone today, and he decided to make the most of it. He looked into his own body while in sage mode. Senjutsu was superior to Tsunade and Sakura's medical devices in every way. Kurama appeared to have left a significant chakra presence behind in case he was slain. Somehow, he knew how far away Kurama was, and he wasn't pleased that his current state prevented him from covering that distance just yet. To show himself how much better his chakra control was now that he was free of the other entity inside of him, he casually formed Rasengan on his fingertips. "You should really cut your hair." Sage mode was quickly disabled by the blonde, who then smiled at the newcomer. "Good morning, Hokage-sama." Tsunade, with some charts in her right hand, tipped her head in a playful manner. She flung the charts onto Naruto's stomach and said, "It's evening, actually. Your entire rhythm is screwed up, Naruto. You're in the clear. You're in perfect health, in all areas. You're the first person ever to survive an extraction of a Biju. There were a few dark days, though. I had your entire team, old and new, guarding you the first few days. I really was that out of it, huh, but not anymore. Even if Akatsuki doesn't know yet, you're no longer one of their targets, you don't have to be on the move all the time anymore. You'll be staying in Konoha again, seeing as you are, one of its shinobi, after all." As for the plan, the former Jinchuriki said, "Yes, that was the plan anyway." He paused at Tsunade's glare, saying, "I can now continue my real training. That technique you created to save Shizune-san." He concluded overly politely. Teach it to Sakura, please? Hokage-sama? The large-chested woman folded her arms and said, you want her as your training partner then? She's become quite the busy medic nin, you know. But I don't think she'll mind that much. Actually, I want Sasuke to be more around my team as well, if possible. His dujutsu needs to be upped if we want to face our enemies equally. Again, another person that wouldn't mind. If you want to up Sharingan, though, why not include Kakashi? Oh, I thought that was rather obvious. She gave him a sardonic look. He is one of the busiest Junin in Konoha. He is right. When in the vicinity, they know not how to behave. It affects my motor functions greatly. It is as if everywhere is somewhere else. How enlightening. As Shino, and Kiba made their way up to Naruto's hospital room, the Yamanaka heir gave the Aburame heir a brief, slightly irritated jaw drop. Shino was discussing the insects that encase his body. Akamaru doesn't even dare enter the room. Bastard's got more chakra asleep than when Choji has all his pills and Enko Sensei goes curse seal combined. The Inuzuka began to shiver involuntarily. I'm not as good at chakra sniffing as Akamaru, but even I can smell the chakra in the room. It doesn't make sense, though. The Kyuubi isn't sealed inside of him anymore. How can he still have that much chakra? How? I believe it is residual. Why? I've been told it has quite the animalistic presence. Both Kiba and Ino gazed at the Aburame. Who, exactly, is telling you this? Who? Quite obviously, my comrades, my destruction bugs. Yeah, anyway, Akamaru says the same thing. That extraction wasn't a complete extraction, if you ask me. And Naruto doesn't seem worried in the slightest, so I think this is all part of a plan. But Naruto isn't that much of a thinker, so how? The blonde girl who was passing between Kiba and Shino said, you're rambling, Kiba. You trust Naruto, right? Very. Shino's two companions gave him blank looks for this. Following a brief pause, Kiba said, I guess I agree with that, yeah. She sat up straight and took the lead, accelerating down the hallway. Well, then don't worry. Did you guys know Naruto is in the bingo book? He has various entries. You should see the one Iwa has. Kiba waved her away from behind, saying, yeah. Guys become too famous if you ask me. Hell, even Sasuke can't hold a candle to him. Ino turned to the boy and gave him a bored look, and they both stopped. Sweetie, Sasuke couldn't hold a candle to him back when he got his ass handed to him in the Chunin exams all those years ago. I think it's pretty much a given how powerful he's become now. Or you? Did you? Huh? Kiba stumbled over his own words, even making Shino frown. But, you're a Sasuke fangirl. The dog-like shinobi ducked to avoid a fourth needle after swiftly dodging three extremely dangerous-looking ones. Behind them, strutting lazily, Akamaru barked, that was a long time ago. We've all grown older and wiser. Or haven't you? I guess Akamaru is the more mature one out of the two of you, huh? Kiba grinned and shrugged, hey, well maybe he is. Ain't nobody better than Akamaru. Shino joined the conversation and picked up the pace once more, saying, but you are correct. The dead last made us face our own ill judgment, we were more the fool than he. Now, he is quite possibly, no, most likely, the most powerful shinobi in Konoha. This time, the statement completely startled Ino and Kiba. But Akamaru barked in agreement. Tsunade was relaxing in the chair next to Naruto's bed when Kiba, Ino, and Shino entered the hospital room. I have one in snow, one in wave, and one in tea country. Naruto animatedly described the locations of his furnished apartments. But, I actually don't have one in Konoha. You can stay with me. Kiba and Naruto were astounded when Ino stepped forward and offered the suggestion. Only Shino appeared amused, and the Hokage was just Shino. He hardly managed to get out, but, I barely know you, Ino? As he managed to straighten his jaw. Ino took in the glaring looks and turned her gaze to the ground. I was just kidding. I still live with my parents, haha. Don't worry about it, it has already been taken care of. Thanks, Hokage-sama. What, did you think your team was sleeping on the streets? They were staying, just like you, in hotels all over Konoha until a few days ago. I've managed to secure an entire apartment building for you, your team and Jiraiya. That pervert never had a place to stay here either. It's about time you guys stayed here, permanently. The other blonde woman in the room said, yeah, you're always gone as soon as you get back. It's boring, we never see you anymore. The young man in bed said, well, we were never really that close. Remember? In fact, if you'd recall. Kiba was pointing his finger at the blonde and saying, oi? Leave things in the past in the past. You and I are going to be going on missions together soon. Naruto looked at the wild man in the room with somewhat of a cloud in his eyes. You have become a good tracker nin, huh? The best, was yelled in response. Then perhaps I already have something in mind. Kiba didn't like Naruto's expression for some reason. Tsunade didn't either. This place needs a woman's touch. No, it doesn't. I don't see any women nearby. What? Sakura and Kakashi had accompanied Naruto to see his new apartment. His old apartment had been his since he, Jiraiya, and the rest of his team began their global travels. His team had already purchased a few items, including a bed, a fridge, a stove, a dinner table, a few closets, and other standard home furnishings. The blonde landed on one of the two couches in the living room and said, "It looks fine to me already." He watched as Sakura and Kakashi settled in as well. "So, how's life been for the two of you? I know I haven't been around much these last few months." Sakura smiled gently at him to begin. "Well, I almost have enough high-ranked missions accomplished to be assessed to become Junin, and my work in the hospital helps heaps with that. I'm on par with Shizune when it comes to Airyo Ninjutsu, and Tsunade-sama told me I might be getting my own personal team when I become Junin. My small children are maturing so quickly," Kakashi muttered, leaning back on the sofa. "You have a nice place for yourself here, Naruto." Thanking him with a nod, Naruto made a cage bunshin and gave the mental order to brew coffee. The clone immediately objected, saying, "But boss, I don't know where everything is in this place." "Figure it out. I know squat about this place either." His teacher said, "You have an interesting relationship with your clones." "I'd rather not talk to you about relationships, Kakashi-sensei." "Hey yeah, why aren't you married anyway, Kakashi-sensei?" "I've been married twice already." Naruto spit out, "What?" and leapt off the couch. But Sakura just gave him a doubtful glance. "My first wife was Icha Tactics, my second." Kakashi was thrown an Icha by Naruto in the face. "Who hey? This one's new." "Nay, Naruto, Sakura and Naruto were alone in the apartment after Kakashi had bid them good night. Naruto discovered that the apartment building was made up entirely of his team. He shared a third-floor apartment with Fu. On the fourth were Tamari and Tayuya, on the second were Kankaru and Dosu, and on the first were Gaara and Jiraiya. Everybody had a separate apartment. She seemed to be struggling to say what she wanted to say. Hey, this is pretty hard. What was it like? Going to the academy? And how did you live before the academy?" He scratched his head and said, I don't know what you mean, Sakura. Academy? It's such a long time ago. You're suddenly bringing things up I don't even remember." "I mean, being a Jinchuriki. I remember, maybe not how it was before the academy, but I do remember what it was like in the academy." She took a breath. "All the teachers hated you, even all the kids hated you." Sakura was staring at her hands, and Naruto became silent in response. He saw that she was shaking a little. "That's right, everybody hated me, I'd forgotten all about that." "Liar." When Sakura suddenly gave a yelp, the blonde shifted back a bit on the couch. She was very serious and very emotional, and he noticed that right away. "Liar," she said, averting her gaze once more and squinting. "I remember you had to do cleaning duty every day. Even though everyone knew it was always someone else's turn every other day. I remember what I thought back then." She tightened her fists. "I thought, Naruto Baka will do the cleaning after class anyway. And I'm pretty sure that's what everyone else thought too." Since Naruto sensed Sakura was trying to make a point, he chose not to answer. "And I remember that you always got blamed for everything. Even when Kiba was yelling in class, you took the fall. When Ino and I were shouting at each other, you took the fall. When Choji was eating in class, you took the fall." Her hands clenched weakly. "You always took the fall. The teachers really hated you." For an extremely brief moment, Naruto's eyes became very dark. However, it vanished before he could even notice it. "I'm really sorry, Naruto." He attempted to dismiss Sakura with an uncertain laugh. "It couldn't really be helped, The older people told the younger people I was bad news." "Naruto. I don't hate you." The outburst came on suddenly, surprising him. Hey, I know that." "No, you don't. You've been hated all your life, so you probably think everyone still hates you. I've never hated you, even if I said those words." "What words?" "Back when we had our very first team meeting, I told Kakashi-sensei, the thing I dislike the most is Naruto." "Oh, hey, you get used to it, everyone always." Sakura threw herself into Naruto's arms, sobbing, and his eyes widened. I'm sorry, Naruto. The blonde was at a loss for what to do about the wailing mess that surrounded him. You know, Sakura, I'm a lot stronger than you give me credit for. She shook her head, causing him to feel her shoulder. She whispered, you're the strongest person I know. If that's the case, then, he said softly. Somehow, the words didn't give him the confidence that usually accompanied them. You should know it ain't that easy to bring me down. As the next Hokage, a few people hating me is nothing, you know. His concern was unfounded, though, because Sakura answered. She mockingly exclaimed, "Huh? You mean all of Konoha that hates you?" He scowled as Sakura interrupted, saying, "Why not all of Konoha? The old man never hated me, Iruka-sensei." Iruka-sensei hated you too, you know. When he first began as teacher. I don't forget, remember? Naruto noticed Sakura was still hugging him absent-mindedly. In his face, her rosy hair looked a complete mess. But that changed. Who would I be if couldn't forgive a person who was misinformed? What kind of Hokage can't forgive the people he vowed to protect? She let go of him here and fixed him with an intense gaze. Naruto. Naruto became quite unsure at this point. She got up from Naruto's lap and bowed to him, saying, I believe in you. You're a great person and you'll become a great Hokage. You have my vote, future Hokage-sama. With a laugh, Naruto gave her a quick pat on the head. There's no need for this, Sakura. Sakura grinned, tilting her head to look at the laid-back Naruto. You know, you've become really cute, Naruto. At the abrupt remark, every thought left his mind. I think something's wrong with you, Sakura. It's time for you to go home. She chuckled at the grave response. No, I mean it. Naruto scratched the back of his head, embarrassed. Thanks. Man, it's really weird hearing this from you. I used to have a big crush on you in the academy. She gave him a cheeky smile. Yeah, I remember, people change, huh? The saying caused his gaze to shift away. Yeah, people change. Well, I'd better get going. I have an early shift tomorrow. Let's catch up on old times soon, okay? I'm glad you're staying in Konoha. We've all really missed you. All right, he nodded, and the two of them headed toward the front door. I have a meeting with a few Anbu members tomorrow. Maybe I'll swing by the hospital. I have to talk to Shizune anyway. She smiled at him and said, that would be nice. Maybe till tomorrow, then. Naruto gave one last shout as he watched her go. Sakura, you look pretty good yourself. Made him smile and give a wave in return. Not as cute as Samui, though, Naruto thought to himself as he closed the door. What is this place? A place where we can go all out when we train. Everything's dead. Barren. It smells. A head shake combined with an eye roll. Well, no shit. I just told you we go all out here, Teme. In case you're not realizing, that means this is where 3 Jinchuriki in a legendary sage fight all out. They disregarded him. Sasuke did not like not knowing everything, so he said, why did you bring me here? Wherever here is. Sasuke and Naruto had been teleported by Hiraishin. Naruto said, gesturing to a large crater in the distance, we're in Tea Country, just across the borders of Fire Country. You're pretty antsy, man. The two of them were perched on a cliff overlooking what appeared to be a wasteland. You see that one? I did that. I slammed a massive specialized Rasengan down on Gaara. I completely defeated him, I mean his sand clone. It was awesome. Whatever. Why am I here? The blonde bowed and stretched a little before saying, all right. You haven't changed at all. You can still piss me off in 5 seconds, sit down. Despite the complaints, the Uchiha took Naruto's lead and sat across from him, saying, neither have you, dead last. You still piss me off in only 1 second. He let out a sigh and suppressed the urge to give Sasuke a 60 or Rasengan. Instead, he turned to what he wanted to talk about. The former Kyuubi Jinchuriki appeared agitated as he said, Sasuke. I want to give you a top-secret mission. I found something in Konoha that was definitely not meant for my eyes. It will be really difficult for you. Drop this sorry act. Hurry up and tell me what you want me to do. How good of a shinobi are you now, Sasuke? I'm a better shinobi than you will ever be. Naruto slapped his own forehead and drew lead ever so slowly. How predictable. I'm serious, asshole. I'm an elite Junin. I get the occasional S-rank mission. I am among the best of Konoha. Does that answer your question? What about your stealth? Can you be invisible? I can use my Sharingan to make people think they've never seen me. That's a definite plus. This will be very risky, Sasuke. I don't know if you can pull it off. Sasuke gave Naruto the cold look. He said angrily, I can pull off whatever you want. He laughed, ew. Sasuke. Shut up. Sasuke, predictably, did not respond and continued to be serious. Perhaps he caught a glimpse of a slight twitch around the eyebrow. Fine, I'll have your back, anyway. Remember how your Sharingan can see my Fuin Bunshin? It's only Sasuke who can be both sarcastic and patronizing. No, I forgot. Well, there's a secret camp underneath Konoha. I found several entrances, but it's part of Konoha's military force. I found out several things about the organization. His birthday wasn't coming up soon, right? This sounds like a prank, dead last. Was Sakura preparing yet another dull, an interesting surprise party? That was even worse than hell. I'm out. This has to do with Itachi, though. Sasuke growled at the mention of his brother right away. All trivial thoughts vanished from his mind. To find out if Naruto was serious, he had turned on his Sharingan. Elaborate. He gave Sasuke a look that made it clear to the Uchiha exactly what kind of history he was talking about when he said, it's history, important history. I can't reveal what I've discovered, but it's imperative that you know this, the blonde said, gathering chakra to conjure a scroll. In here is a map of the entire base. The red dots are guards, the blue dots are cameras, the short brown lines are hidden entrances that go down, the orange ones go up. Yellow short lines are entrances to areas on the same level. They are also hidden from view. I marked the area where you need to be green. After giving Naruto back the map after swiftly scanning it, Sasuke said, Hen, not bad. You've put some effort in. I've memorized it with my Sharingan. He looked at the Uchiha, impressed, and said, damn, that Sharingan is pretty cool. Dully, the Avenger repeated, cool, what else you got? It's red. The Uchiha gave the blonde a sneer. I mean, what else you got for me in this? Why do you want me to do this? Infiltrate this base. Naruto smiled. Because it needs to happen. Your view on things is still limited. I've learned of something that will blast your view on things to nothing. But I can't tell you because you won't believe me unless you see it with your own eyes. The greenly marked area on the map is a big archive. I managed to get in by use of Fuin Bunshin. It's highly guarded by 3 Junin leveled Anbu shinobi. I'm not sure if you see a. I can and I will. If what you're saying is true, they have information on the Uchiha massacre, right? Nervously, Naruto swallowed. Yes, and you think, judging by your reaction, I'm going to freak out. The ex-prankster gave a single nod. Yeah. You have some sort of plan. You obviously know the way once you step foot inside, seeing as you have the entire map memorized in your head. But I'll have Fuin Bunshin around you constantly. I will also give you some of my special kunai in case you get spotted or worse, captured. Obviously, if that happens, Naruto nodded, yeah, we'll have to kill everyone down there. I don't want to, though. The existence of that secret military force, they're called Root, by the way, they might be necessary for Konoha. So I want you to promise me something. Sasuke turned off the Sharingan. This might turn very personal for me. Any promises I make now may turn forgotten when I'm in those archives. Oh, I definitely think so, that's why I don't want you to read the scrolls with information of that night there. As soon as you have the scrolls you need, my Fuin Bunshin will notify me and I will use Hiraishin to take you away from there. Why don't you just take the scroll yourself and give it to me? With a serious look in his eyes, Naruto cocked his head somewhat dangerously. Where would the fun go if I did all the work? Sasuke concluded that Naruto's expression didn't appeal to him. Naruto purposefully left out the location of Sasuke's destination after his perilous mission. After this, the Uzumaki thought the Uchiha would want Danzo's head, and probably also the heads of Hiruzen, Homura, and Kaharu. He was unsure if this was the right course of action because he preferred Root's covert methods of keeping Konoha safe. However, he didn't truly believe in Danzo, and his true desires were that Root would be led by Sasuke. However, even though he claimed that his friend was predictable, he had no idea how Sasuke would react to this. He sincerely hoped that he wouldn't have to face Sasuke in the end. I apologize, Itachi. Now that I'm where I want to be, though, I'm going to pick up the pace. He stretched the boundaries of his body, sprinting and leaping across the training area that Team 7 frequently used. Since he had his Sharingan out, he shouldn't be having any problems with his opponents. There weren't many who could really grind him down or give him a hard time. He knew that he couldn't land for longer than a second after a kick landed in his midriff, and that his opponent would punish him for being so careless. Rather than coming to rest on his back, He launched himself back into the air using his right wrist, catching the 3 shuriken that were aimed for his chest. In the same instant that they were thrown back, his opponent pocketed them once more. Another kick, delivered very hard this time in the back of Kakashi's neck, made him snarl in agony. Naruto wasn't holding back when it came to his kicks or punches. He had hoped he still had some chance against his former student, so it wasn't entirely shocking. Unfortunately, though, Naruto was easily mopping the floor with him. He was certain that even if he used his Kamui, all he would be doing was transporting a clone to a different dimension. He discovered the Uchiha had grown extremely strong during their recent sparring match, but he still had a chance against the young, unyielding boy. That was a whole other story with Naruto. Having him as your opponent meant that there was never a moment to waste. His muscles were screaming for him to stop doing whatever it was he was doing, but to do so would be to concede the fight. And they had hardly spent 2 minutes together. His Junin uniform more closely resembled a big burned towel than anything else, and his body was a complete mess. A second later, he was being kicked in the ear and punched in the lips, which made him raise his arms in a desperate attempt to escape. "I give up." Jiraiya sauntered slowly up the field and said, "Not bad, Kakashi. Most of us give up after a minute against his crazy relentless assault. You actually managed to dodge a few times." He could not resist falling to his knees. In fact, Naruto gave him a serious competition. It had tested his endurance, and he had failed miserably. "How strong are you?" With a broad smile on his face, the blonde stood behind the elite Junin. "I honestly don't know. My training is complete and it is up to me now to learn new things. I haven't had an honest death match with an Akatsuki member yet, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to rip all of them to shreds with this." Kakashi swallowed the soldier pill Jiraiya threw at him and agreed. He had to wonder aloud, what kind of fighting style have you created? "Well, you know I like to use clones, right?" A few wry looks were directed at him. There was Maida Guy, Kakashi, and Jiraiya in the clearing. The only person who wasn't giving him a pointed look but rather an excited one was Guy. "I made it so that when I attack, the attack will always land, no matter what happens. The destruction of a clone means a creation of a new one. I call it the Shitsuyu no Mei. It's awesome, because it doesn't even take a lot of chakra." The blonde sat down on the ground and took the scroll out. "Fuinjutsu is great once you're at the level where you can create things no one has created yet and you can pull it off. You haven't sparred with Sasuke yet, right?" He shook his head, sparing Kakashi a glance from his scroll. "Not yet." He touched his jaw several times and said, "He's going to be angry at how far away you are now. From the second our match started I felt like I was going to die every second afterwards. I especially regret not having revealed my Sharingan immediately. Your ability to transform your Fuin Bunshin into Cage Bunshin is truly a dangerous one. Actually, they don't transform. They simply perform the Cage Bunshin, but with half of their chakra remaining, they can't sustain their form, so they instantly fuse all the chakra into the shadow clone. This all happens really fast, so it does seem like they blend into one another. The truth is, the Fuin Bunshin carries very little chakra and so the Cage Bunshin they summon is also with little chakra. They are unable to land a decent, lethal hit and are more used for diversion or annoyance." The copy nin muttered, "Well, it works. You have become a very annoying opponent using surprisingly basic techniques. I never imagined you would become like this when I first viewed your stats of your academy days. True. But now that I no longer have Kurama sealed within me, my chakra control has become far greater. Thanks to that, my basics have become very lethal." With a sigh, the gray-haired Junin got to his feet. "I can't believe you reduced me to this state in 3 minutes." Guy's smile lit up the whole clearing. "Ho ho, 2 minutes and 14 seconds, Kakashi. Uzumaki Naruto-kun. It is my turn now." Kakashi realized, blinking, that he wouldn't mind seeing Guy get pounded. He took a seat once more and anticipated it. The former Jinchuriki spread his arms and prepared to begin a new fight, saying, "Guy-sensei, I suggest you take off your weights then, because I'm going to be moving fast." He held up a finger directly in front of his face. "Not yet, young one, I wish to test the fountain of your youth." The blonde popped his neck to the right and muttered, "Somehow, that sounds disgusting." Kakashi and Jiraiya concurred. "Start." A tenth of a second later, Kakashi was overjoyed to see Guy had taken a kick to the mouth. Tayuya threw her long red hair over her right shoulder and looked around suspiciously. In Konoha, everything just seemed too ideal. The two women in front of her seemed unaffected by it. She had grown strangely devoted to her captain over the last few years. She showed Orochimaru one kind of loyalty, but this was a different one. This was true allegiance. He gave her another chance, and then many more in a plethora of other areas. All that Orochimaru offered her was the choice to live. She thought their squad was great and didn't think it needed more people. Naruto, though, was determined not to let anyone else join. The blonde was debating between Hyuga Neji and Uchiha Sasuke right now. After all, they didn't have a Dujutsu user yet. She, Fu, and Temari were currently on their way to the Hokage's office. After meeting up with Hyuga Neji and Maeda Guy, the group of 5 would embark on a mission that would take them outside of Konoha. Although it was a simple A-ranked mission, Neji was unaware that Temari, Fu, and she would be evaluating him during it. Leading the way, the green-haired girl scratched the top of her head. I've fought Hyuga people before. They're not that impressive. I never had a hard time against any of them. That's because you're a Jinchuriki, Fu. Reopening your Tenketsu is child's play for you. Hyuga are actually troublesome opponents. Tayuya concurs wholeheartedly with Temari. After all, those Hyuga had no trouble seeing through Genjutsu. A fresh voice spoke up from behind them, saying, "From what I understand, they're all stuck-up bastards with too much arrogance." Taiko. Each of them exclaimed. Naruto nodded to his allies and said, "Except for Hinata. She was always nice. I'm joining you to the tower. Gaara and I are picking up a mission too." "Ah, I want to join you." Temari and Tayuya said nothing, but they agreed with Fu. They were not looking forward to going on a mission with a Junin known for being extremely active in a Hyuga. "Nah, your mission will be fun, too, don't worry. I heard the chances of you running into Noob Nin is pretty high." It did appear more interesting with that prospect. "Nah Naruto Taiko." The unexpected greeting from one of her elite Junin caused a blonde eyebrow to shoot up. The other blonde who had just walked into the 5th Hokage's office turned to face her. "Naruto, why is he calling you captain?" she growled. The former Jinchuriki scowled at Maeda Guy and shrugged, saying, "Beats me." Maeda Guy, who appeared to be in total defeat. Aha! Despite his obvious pain, he managed to maintain his usual crazed smile. "Kakashi and I had a bet. Whoever lasted longer in a spar against you wouldn't have to call you captain. But you both lasted equally, right? 2 minutes in?" Naruto was interrupted by Guy. 14 seconds, yes, but I consider a tie a loss." Naruto answered dryly, "I'm pretty sure Kakashi isn't calling me captain, though." He turned to Tsunade and pointed at Guy. "Is this guy fit for a mission like this, anyway? You're the reason he's getting beat up," the Hokage exclaimed. Still, he defeated Guy and Kakashi in just 2 minutes. What? Why am I no longer even surprised? The only reason it didn't fall on her desk when she lowered her head slightly was because she did so into her hands. "Neji is leading the mission. I'll heal this idiot before they leave." From the moment they entered the office, Tayuya, Fu, and Temari had remained silent behind Naruto. However, they were forced to make room when the door opened to allow Gaara to enter. "It's crowded," the redhead said, taking stock of the space. Neji nodded, standing behind Jinchuriki, the redhead. The blonde Hokage got down to business as everyone became serious, saying, "It seems we're complete." The tone of the room became more somber as soon as Fu, Temari, Neji, Tayuya, and Guy left the office. After confirming that the sound barrier he had set up moments earlier was still firmly in place, the blonde Junin began. "He is detained and without chakra. I can do this for as long as I want, but he is a friend of mine. I have a plan to deal with this troublesome mess, though." "You want to save him?" Naruto nodded, looking at Gaara before confirming. "I want him and Neji in my teams of Akatsuki hunters. Sasuke is also a powerful shinobi of Konoha, he is valuable." Taking a seat in one of the 2 chairs in front of the Hokage's desk, the Shukaku Jinchuriki said, "What is your plan, Taiko? This is a delicate situation. If what you say is true, Sasuke wants to destroy Konoha more than protect it." Naruto immediately replied, "I will kill all that threatens Konoha. But, I don't want to kill Sasuke, unless I really have to. Right now, my plan is to kill Hoshigaki Kisame and the few weird plant clones surrounding him. Then we capture Itachi and take him to Sasuke. If the conversation those two have doesn't pan out the way we want it, then I will go to plan B. I take it that plan B involves eliminating both Uchiha?" The Hokage scowled at Naruto. "You want to take out an S-ranked missing nin and take another captive?" This is where the blonde man smiled. "I have intel on Kisame. The first thing we do is separate him and his sword. The rest will be child's play." "What about Itachi? Jiraiya, Gaara, Kakashi, Kiba, Shino and me. We should be able to handle Itachi and Kisame. Then the only question that remains is, how will you find those two?" Konoha Junin, the blonde, smirked at his Hokage. I've been in contact with Itachi, actually. What do you mean? Inquired Tsunade. Gaara was sulking over Naruto in the interim. So he intends to inform her that Itachi is an ally? I've learned everything about this entire mess a long time ago, Hokage-sama. About the Uchiha massacre and Itachi's innocence. It was Itachi who told us so many years ago, during that first Tsukiyomi. Tsunade became enthralled with the suggestion. You knew about it when you were 14? Each of them gave a head nod. We've been in touch with Itachi ever since. He's going to turn on Kisame and Akatsuki and side with us. We're Akatsuki hunters and I wanted a Hyuga and a Uchiha in our organization. I partly lied because we already had Uchiha. Hyuga Neji will most likely join us too. So Kisame is completely loyal to Akatsuki. Itachi can deal with him by himself, but I'm sure the other Akatsuki members will be quick to respond. With us around, it'll be easier. She sighed and shook her head, saying, what a sneaky ambush. Are you sure you want Kakashi with you? Yes, his Kamui could be useful after all, the blonde said, cocking his head. Also, killing both Sasuke and Itachi was never really a plan. If it was, it would be the last plan. Plan B is bringing in Hyuga Hiyashi and putting a caged bird seal on Sasuke. Tsunade's gaze expanded. Sitting on the roof of a small cabin, Kiba hissed silently, I don't know the smell of shark. I've never eaten shark or come across one. They were all dressed more formally than usual because they were in snow country. I can't believe he brought me to a place this cold. You shouldn't complain. Why? Because complaining will make it seem as if time goes slower. Assuming you want to return to Konoha as fast as you can, I think you wouldn't want time to go slow. Aburame Shino's brows became furrowed. Although, it seems my bugs share your sentiment. You never learned how to heat your body with chakra? Kiba and Shino both gave the third person a disbelieving look. Gaara frowned slightly, glancing at the two beside him before turning his head away in contemplation. It appears I owe you an apology. Yeah, you do. Kiba shot back with anger. Shino agreed silently but quite angrily. Why didn't you tell us this when we first got here? Yesterday, for example. The redhead began. No, I mean, forgive me. It seems only a Jinchuriki can apply this to oneself. Kiba hesitated in his response, knowing that Gaara would absolutely destroy him if he attempted to strangle her. Meanwhile, Shino had turned away. His enraged twitches had to be heard by his bugs. Standing between Gaara and Kiba was a fourth individual. They're almost here. I still don't smell anything, Naruto. For the umpteenth time, Gaara warned. Uzumaki Taiko. You address him as Uzumaki Taiko. Kiba growled. Nah, never. In response to Kiba's previous statement, Naruto expressed indifference in either case. They're S-rank Nuke Nin, Kiba. I'm pretty sure they can erase their entire presence. When they do arrive, I want you two inside, with Sasuke. He was referring to Kiba and Shino. Jiraiya, Gaara and me will handle them. Kakashi will act as our backup should unexpected visitors arrive. Jiraiya, Gaara, Kakashi, and an additional Naruto materialized on the ground in front of the cabin. They signaled to them that they were ready to go by signing upward. As Gaara used sand to levitate downward, Kiba asked Naruto, so you're a Kage Bunshin? Naruto gave the Inuzuka a smile. Kiba pondered, maybe, as to why Kage Bunshin shared the original scent. The Kyuubi Jinchuriki and the Shukaku Jinchuriki, I've heard they've grown quite strong. I'm sure they have. Jinchuriki tend to grow stronger as they grow older. A brief moment of silence. Quite like any other person. I've also heard Nagato had a hard time against that Kyuubi Jinchuriki. Doesn't that make this questionable, Itachi-san? Itachi said, it does. Especially since it seems Jiraiya-sama is with them. Kisame shot to his feet. Confusion engulfed the shark-like man. Why did Nagato send us to fight two Jinchuriki and Jiraiya? I mean, even Jiraiya alone could give both of us a hard time. It was what Nagato ordered us to do. Although he nodded, Kisame wasn't entirely sure. Naturally, Itachi had tricked Samahada and Kisame into thinking Nagato had given the order by using genjutsu on them. Though it wasn't simple, his reputation as a genjutsu master wasn't earned overnight. This kind of small, subtle genjutsu was particularly challenging. Kisame took Samahada and stabbed it in front of him in the ground, saying, let me prepare. I will fuse with Samahada now before they see A. Kisame watched in dismay as Itachi kicked Samahada out of his grasp. Itachi disintegrated into crows, and for a fraction of a second, he was completely stunned before launching a swift attack. All around him came Itachi's voice, saying, "You're on your own, Kisame." The missing Nin looked around rapidly, but he could not find his sword, though he was certain it struck the tree to his left, nevertheless. Forget it. Uzumaki Naruto, Sabaku no Gaara, and the Toad Sage Jiraiya were in front of him. Naruto had a scroll in his hands that was blazing hot. "That sword of yours is a real pain in the ass to seal. It keeps on absorbing the chakra out of the seals, making the scroll useless. Therefore, I am currently unable to join this fight to keep the sword sealed. A cage bunshin wouldn't suffice." Jiraiya and Gaara nodded, realizing that it was their responsibility to defeat Kisame. Sneaky Itachi. I always knew something like this would happen. I always figured it would be me doing the front stabbing. Kisame laughed. Even though he never really engaged in combat without Samahada, he was still a formidable opponent in the absence of it. Indeed. As he kicked behind him, Kisame growled, but nothing was left. Once more, Itachi swiftly stabbed him in the shoulder with a kunai from behind before vanishing and resurfacing in front of Jiraiya and Gaara. "You will fall here. Hoshigaki Kisame. I never truly stopped being a Konoha nin." 4 Zetsu materialized in Kisami's immediate vicinity, prepared to defend him. One told Kisame, "Obito and Nagato are being notified. But they can easily overpower all of us. We should stall." In the same instant, Gaara's sand pulled the 4 Zetsu underground, crushing them. "Leave those white monsters to me. There are more around, but they are swimming in my sand. How very foolish of them." While Itachi disappeared from view, prepared to attack Kisame at any moment when he would let his guard down, Jiraiya rushed towards him. But before Jiraiya could get to Kisame, Nagato materialized in front of him, halting his progress. "Hello, Jiraiya-sensei." It appeared that Obito had transported Nagato using Kamui. Naruto twitched, staring at Nagato with a bewildered expression on his face. "Someone just threw the kunai I gave Nagato. But he's right here." Kisame looked relieved as he saw Obito appear next to him. And so is Obito. Kakashi suddenly materialized behind Naruto, his steely eyes fixed on him. What ought I to do? Was he expected to retreat from combat? As Kakashi walked past him and faced his old friend Obito, he was genuinely unaware of anything. Obito. Kakashi. Jiraiya was up against Uzumaki Nagato, a former pupil. Kakashi was up against his old teammate, Uchiha Obito. Though he was occupied subduing Zetsu, Gaara knew he had to confront Kisame at this point. Even with Itachi nearby as a backup, things still didn't seem to be going well. Naruto was occupied with trying to read the faces of the Akatsuki members and maintaining his chakra connected to the scroll that kept Samahada sealed. That was undoubtedly the kunai he gave to Nagato, the one he sensed had been thrown into Fire Country. Who was the thrower? Would the Akatsuki want that, or could he leave this place to find out who did it? He was unable to determine if the Akatsuki members anticipated his departure from the battleground. This is so confusing, damn it. All he could think of was the cage bunshin he had left behind at the cabin. Although his allies saw, they assumed he needed to hide the Samahada somewhere. Glaring at each other, Nagato and Jiraiya were about 2 meters apart. "You weren't there the last time, sensei. I wonder if you are as strong as your student has become. If not, you stand little chance." "I'm stronger than the runt and stronger than you." Nagato grinned. "My eyes can detect lies quite well, sensei. You've grown old and slow. You will fall today." Turning to face the copycat ninja a few meters ahead of him, Obito said to Kisame, "So Itachi betrayed us. I didn't expect him to do this, but I can't say I'm surprised," he said, trying to give Kakashi the impression that he didn't really care. "Such joy to face my former teammate. Without emotion. I don't see you as anything anymore, so don't bother talking. Are you ready to go, Kisame?" By go. What did he mean? Should you pick a fight or run away? Kisame was unable to determine who would prevail in the end today. That made him an S-ranker, even without his sword. As soon as Naruto arrived at the cabin, he looked closely at Shino and Kiba and made a decision. "Shino, keep maintaining the seal etched on top of this scroll. The way to do it is pour chakra into it, not too much and definitely, not too little. Keep the same amount continuously. Use your bugs to see how much I'm using." Shino nodded his head, knowing what needed to be done, and immediately let his bugs see what Naruto was doing. "How long can you do this? According to my buys, they believe in estimate. "How long, Shino?" 30 minutes. The chakra you are releasing is quite an enormo." Shino looked at Kiba as he assumed control of Naruto's actions on the scroll, saying, "Take over, I'll try to be as quick about all of this." He then produced 5 shadow clones and gazed at the lone clone he had left behind, saying, "Guard Shino. He cannot let up, 2 of you stand guard over Sasuke inside. The remaining 3, go and help Gaara and the others. I'll be right back," he exclaimed, calling upon his dependable sword, Ego Kaiki, even though he wasn't entirely sure about it. Then he vanished in an instant. While the other 2 went inside the cabin, his 3-cage Bunshin hurried to the battlefield. Kiba shuddered slightly from the impact of Naruto's authoritative tone. Kiba approached Shino and said, "Wow, Shino. Do not approach." Kiba saw at that moment that Shino was totally focused on the assignment Naruto had given him. Kiba could tell from what little he could see on Shino's face that this was going to be a difficult task. It didn't work. Then, he materialized in front of her, a large sword poised to slay her, as she was making her way to the spot where she had thrown the kunai and getting ready to try again. "Uzumaki-san. I don't want to fight." She didn't have an Akatsuki cloak on, but Naruto knew who she was right away. "You are Akatsuki. You were there when Nagato and I fought each other." "Yes, I was there. My name is Conan." He narrowed his eyes and prepared to chop this woman to pieces at the first sign. "You're the woman who can control paper? Don't think I don't know how to deal with that." Dressed in an AIM Junin uniform, Conan said, "I see. You have information about us." She extended her arms and gave Naruto the calmest look she could manage. "I have no weapons, no chakra active. I don't want to fight, I have left Akatsuki." He didn't have time to deal with this. "Why should I believe you? The others were engaged in combat." "The Akatsuki has changed, its goals are different. It was created with peace in mind, but all it creates is violence." After making his sword disappear, Naruto reached into a pocket and took out 2 pieces of paper. "Form the bird seal." Conan blinked at the strange order, but followed it right away. As he called forth the left and right shadow clones, the blonde uttered the words, "I don't trust you at all. But my cage Bunshin are going to give you this slip of paper and you are going to pour your chakra into it, after you drop a drop of blood onto it." "What does it do?" He wasn't in the mood to screw around when she got cut off. As his cage Bunshin approached her, he explained, "It's a 2-way scroll. We will be connected through blood and I will be able to see, feel, and tell if you are lying. Tell me everything you just said again as soon as I activate the scroll and you activate yours." "Creative," Conan said, cutting herself with her own skin because she could cut through paper with ease while still creating the bird seal. She saw that Naruto had a blood drop on his slip and was holding the ram seal. Naruto muttered, "Fuin." Conan's piece of paper instantly disappeared. Naruto gave Conan a less severe glare than before. He saw absolutely no hesitation on her part. She followed instructions to the letter. Still, it was insufficient. "Talk. We don't have much time." As Naruto began speaking, Conan couldn't help but cast glances at the shimmering piece of paper that was still in her hands. He is a troublesome opponent. Now that they were standing side by side, Obito looked at Nagato. Nagato paused to consider whether Kakashi was actually an S-ranked shinobi at this point. "My opponents are Uchiha Itachi and Hitaki Kakashi. 2 S-ranked nin. Jiraiya is only 1. I believe the right to complain lies with me a bit more, Nagato." With Kisame, Gaara was finding it rather easy. He was all over the place right now, in his sand shower version, quite untouchable. However, even without Samahata, Kisame recovered quickly. "Kaden, Karyu Enden." With a wave of his hand, Nagato neutralized Jiraiya's attack by absorbing its chakra. Obito was still targeted by part of it, but he simply allowed it to pass through him. When he did, Itachi used that moment to cast a genjutsu on him, so he had to move quickly. And Kakashi entered suddenly with a Chidori after vanishing from nowhere with the genjutsu. In just 2 seconds, all of this happened. Obito was forced to retreat since he had no time to activate Kamui, but Itachi materialized above him, setting 100 kunai on fire and causing it to rain. How annoying, Obito thought to himself as he sprinted sideways while Kakashi continued to follow. He allowed Kakashi to phase through him at the 5th second, and for a split second, he considered sending the man to another dimension using his other eye. Instead, he kicked the man with gray hair to the ground. Itachi hurled wisps of fire at him, which he had to quickly avoid. "I'll let Kakashi go with my Kamui so he can learn more about the method. And Itachi already knows how my Kamui functions. He must pass away here." Shinra Tensai. Rolling his eyes, Obito saw Nagato launch 2 enormous toads into the air. As Kisame was being kicked in the ass by the Shukaku boy, he felt some shadow clones sneak up on him. The inability of the Kyuubi Jinchuriki's shadow clones to use Hiraishin is strange. However, I think that's a good thing. With a shinobi like Gaara around, the Zetsu Subterranean was worthless garbage. The moment the shadow clones of Naruto appeared on the battlefield, they made straight for Nagato. Obito knew Itachi had long since planned this out, for some reason. Then he made up his mind, we should retreat. I agree. He wasn't shocked to hear Kisame make that statement. Without his sword, the shark-like man was merely an A-rank shinobi. Although Nagato would most likely stay here for a while, the real Naruto would most likely return soon as well. He was surprised to find Kakashi ready to confront Itachi while they were playing hide and seek. Obito growled. Itachi, have you been snooping on us all along? Shino was already gasping when Naruto used Hiraishin to return to the cabin while Conan was at his side. Naruto, thank God, Shino's having trouble. Shino submitted to Naruto right away, lowering himself to his knees at the first opportunity. I thought you said 30 minutes. It hasn't even been 15. It got harder. Huffing, Naruto repeated the seal reinforcement several times, but he understood. This sword, I think it can sense his master being in danger. Conan came up to Naruto and said, that's true. Samahada and Kisame are fused more often than not. I can be of assistance here. Sealing sentient items requires a constant source of chakra. I will detain the sword with my paper techniques. Wouldn't it just drain the chakra out of your technique? That's true. But I believe I can hold on long enough for you to help your comrades. With a sudden smile, Naruto took a soldier pill in his free hand. He laughed to himself, I can't believe I'm using a soldier pill. He gave a single whistle to alert the two shadow clones inside the cabin that they were needed. I'll perform Shishi engine around the sword as soon as it's released from the scroll. He then gave the orders to the Cage Bunshin who emerged from the house to each summon one additional shadow clone and execute the Shishi engine. Kiba, give Shino a soldier pill and then go guard Sasuke with him. Conan told him, it is quite fast, you'll have to be quick. No, you need to move quickly, Conan. The fair-haired woman grinned at her. The moment that thing shoots out of the scroll, is the moment you wrap your paper around it and immobilize it. And then my clones will capture it. They can hold up the Shishi engine for a long time. Conan furrowed his brow. I know that the Shishi engine takes a lot of chakra to perform. The blonde shot back, saying, I'm a Jinchuriki, and I just took a freaking soldier pill. That being said, he was no longer a true Jinchuriki. Yes, you did. But you're not the one who created the shadow clones, are you? These hold a certain percentage of the chakra from you before you took the soldier pill. At that, Naruto's mouth dropped open, damn it. He quickly called forth the new Cage Bunshin, then set Samahada free so Conan could attack it. In turn, the newly formed Cage Bunshin executed the Shishi engine swiftly. Everything needed to be completed fast, then he gave Jiraiya a flash. And to confront Nagato's Banshu Tenin, it didn't matter in the end that he pulled the wrong person towards him. Nagato's eyes widened momentarily. He was going to stab Naruto with one of his black rods, but as he was drawn toward the other Uzumaki, Naruto smiled and called forth Ego Kaiki. With a growl, Nagato rolled aside. That sword experience he had was not cool. As he picked himself up, he exclaimed, so we are facing each other again. Not just me, now. Jiraiya stood by Naruto's side as he snapped his neck. Naruto had to use caution in this battle because he was aware that he had already used a lot of chakra. Kisame was right where Gaara wanted him to be, and Obito was growing tired of constantly avoiding attacks from Itachi, Kakashi, and sometimes even Gaara and Jiraiya. Nagato appeared next to Kisame using Shunshin and yelled, Shinra Tensai, to drive away all the sand particles that were attacking Kisame. Oh no, it's going to take some time for Gaara to regain his physical form. He will also suffer harm. In that state, he's actually very vulnerable, Naruto growled and balled his fists. Standing next to the pair, Obito gave Naruto's squad a severe glare. Now that he was with Jiraiya and Naruto, Kakashi was eager to try again. Obito was someone he didn't want to face, but they had already assured him he would be here. Itachi, the cunning and stealthy ninja, was most likely still around for all of them. Obito said, it appears you have us exactly where you wanted us. Gaara had temporarily disappeared, and Zetsu had begun to emerge from the earth. After a moment, he lifted his head slightly and spoke in an unspecific manner, saying, we will come for you later. You too, will get what you deserve, Itachi-kun. The Akatsuki doesn't appreciate betrayal. The Uchiha prodigy suddenly materialized next to Naruto, saying, I see. I am sure Orochimaru would agree. With a snarl, Obito ignored Itachi's typical sarcasm and fixed his gaze on Naruto. Don't get cocky, Kyuubi. You will be surprised at how well our cards still are. Obito then teleported each of them away. Kakashi looked long and hard at the place where they vanished. Obito. Itachi turned to face the others after confirming that they were truly enemies no more. It has been a while, Kakashi-senpai. After blinking in response to the greeting, Kakashi shook Itachi's hand. It has. I've heard you had quite the high-ranked mission. Nearing the cabin, the Uchiha remarked, yes. It took quite some time, too. I am just now finishing things up. Alongside a gaunt-looking Gaara were Naruto and Jiraiya. I told you shouldn't have used that jutsu. Nagato was there, man. Was a comment Naruto made while Gaara was preoccupied. Naruto became friendly with him as soon as he approached. We have your little brother detained. He plans to burn Konoha to the ground. The Nuke Nin did not appear to be shocked. He learned of the truth, then? He nodded to Itachi. I apologize for rushing things, Itachi, but I felt it necessary. With a sigh of apparent relief, the Uchiha said, haste might hurt, Naruto-kun. He looked seriously at Naruto and said, but I must admit, it feels good to have left Akatsuki ahead of schedule. Your plans? Allow him some vengeance. I'll give him Danzo if he in return leads Root in the old man's stead. If Naruto hadn't known any better, he would have said that Itachi appeared kind of impressed. It is peculiar how similar our minds work, Naruto-kun. Perhaps the reason stems from us both looking out for Konoha. There is but one slight difference between our plans. While we were tending to our own wounds, Jiraiya and Kakashi were listening in on the conversation. After all, the Hokage had to be left out of this as well. Gaara appeared uninterested, but she was actually quite intrigued. It will be me who will lead Root within Konoha's darkness. I won't be readily accepted into Konoha by the populace. What better way to circumvent the unnecessary ill attention? Not quite satisfied, Naruto cast a serious glance at the elder Uchiha. What of Sasuke, then? I'll talk with my little brother. A genuine Tsukiyomi should do the trick for what little time we have left. My little brother deserves to know the truth, the genuine one. Kakashi approached the two and said, there's another problem, Itachi-kun. How come you haven't turned blind yet? Surely having used Amaterasu and Tsukiyomi like you have, it's sure to leave damage. I grasped my parent's eyes. He responded stiffly. He shook his head once, saying, familial bonds develop in ways even I didn't know of. Although I wish none will ever find out about the backlash. The instant they became aware of one another, they both came to a mutual understanding. So all this time he was Konoha's spy? When Conan noticed Itachi. When Itachi saw Conan, he thought, so that's the path she chose to walk. Conan gestured toward the sword inside the purple barrier and said, he has simmered down quite a bit. Naruto was informed. I think it's safe to assume Kisame is not in the near vicinity? Conan-chan. The woman with blue hair blinked as Jiraiya began to sprint in her direction. Jiraiya-sensei? Naruto turned to Itachi as Jiraiya hopped towards the woman with purple hair. We have ways of dealing with that bothersome sword, but for safety reasons, could you use Amaterasu to destroy it? The older man gave the sword a single nod, moved forward, and bowed once. Itachi opened his right eye after about a minute. And with that, black flames sucked the sword down to the underworld, saying, Samahata, I apologize. He was a little surprised to feel a hand on his shoulder. It had been a long time since he'd felt anything like that. Are you ready to see your little brother? Itachi fully charged his Sharingan, steeling himself to move toward the cabin that housed his younger brother, albeit in captivity. Yes, deactivate your Fuin seals when I enter and leave us be until we come out. With a nod, Naruto banished the cage Bunshin from the house. Kiba and Shino trailed quickly behind, making way for Itachi to enter the house. They felt completely out of their element, especially after seeing the older Uchiha. When this goes wrong, Jiraiya's unasked question was answered by Naruto. After that, they would be faced with another altercation. Sasuke. He was startled out of his sleep by the sound of that voice. Itachi. We have to talk, Sasuke. Itachi set Tsukiyomi on when Sasuke actually looked his brother in the eye. His surroundings abruptly shifted as they found themselves witnesses to a significant gathering that had taken place in the Hokage Tower years earlier. Sasuke identified the two advisors and the third Hokage. Not only did he recognize Shimura Danzo, but he also saw a younger version of his older brother kneeling down in front of them. Beside him, the real Itachi remarked, I am showing you why I did what I did, Sasuke. I assure you, you will understand. No more lies, you will now see the naked truth. Sasuke observed. Observed the third argue with his advisors and Danzo's decision to utterly destroy the Uchiha in order to prevent their coup. He witnessed the third's attempts to thwart it and Itachi's forced descent onto the one course where his own convictions held firm. Our family, Sasuke, wanted to destroy Konoha, rebuild it and led it. Our family was a proud, ignorant clan. They believed in themselves more than in the village. They would go as far to destroy any other clan but their own. Konoha was built with union of clans as its stronghold. There is no union of clans in a massacre where only one remains. We would have been so different, you would have been raised so different. Itachi stopped to watch the events unfold. It would have all been in vain. Had the coup d'état been successful, it would have been a Pyrrhic victory. All Konoha would be as ashes on the ground, with his conclusion that union of clan is an impossibility. There simply would be no clan left. No Senju, no Uchiha, nothing. Sasuke observed Uchiha Shisui commit suicide and offer himself as a sacrifice in support of those same beliefs. He saw how Danzo obtained the Sharingan eyes. He observed Itachi murdering his own parents and how they accepted his choices. He witnessed as numerous other Uchiha wearing masks were also killed. Here, Itachi clarified, the man in the mask is Uchiha Obito, your sensei's former teammate. He is the leader of Akatsuki, an organization which is after your former teammate Uzumaki Naruto. All for the Biju sealed inside of him. However, Sasuke remained silent. He saw Itachi join Akatsuki and fight for them for years. He witnessed the meeting and covert alliance that Itachi and Naruto formed, even with Konoha. I did what was necessary not only for Konoha, but for our continuation. Had I not, there would be no hope left. Itachi, with a sword aimed at his parents, a younger Itachi stood before them, saying, I'm sorry, Sasuke. I didn't want to kill them. I see myself doing this every time I dare to dream. He lowered his head slightly as he witnessed Sasuke's demise in the real world once more. He carried the right eye of his father and the left eye of his mother. It wouldn't be long before Sasuke received the other two. Pull yourself together. He stammered more blood and managed to say, I need time. He was similar to my heart, and he's completely gone now. I didn't know Samahata meant that much to you. Is it not only a tool? With a wild, abrupt dash, he phased through it and clicked his tongue in disappointment. Kisame had broken through half of a wall and through Obito. Ignoring Kisame, Obito turned to face the other person in the Akatsuki hideout. The remaining members of Akatsuki were all away on their missions. Itachi betrayed us and Kisame will be a mess for quite a while. Underground, Zetsu declined to participate in the discussion because he was a little miffed by Nagato's remark. How annoying, it seems this was planned for quite some time. They were prepared, we were not. The red-haired Nagato folded his arms and looked at the mess that was Kisame. Hoshigaki is also useless without his trump card, we might as well kill him. There was one Uchiha in the room who thought, he might still turn useful. All is not lost, Nagato. You are not the only Uzumaki in the Akatsuki anymore. Yuna is quite the formidable shinobi. Though Nagato had to agree, at least in part, he wasn't one to shower praise on others. I suppose her summons are promising, yes. Without it, she's as useless as the sniveling shark over there. Don't rule out an Uzumaki too quickly. You are, after all, from the same clan. Her Fuinjutsu skills brought her summons to begin with. She deserves the power. Just like you and the Rinnegan. The wielder of Rinnegan snorted. I doubt she can hold her own against Uzumaki Naruto. I'll believe in her worth when she survives against a hurricane like that. We'll have to inform her before we do this. If what you say is true, then a battle with him will be quite noticeable. They were sitting at a table in the living room, him and Itachi. Kakashi and Gaara were keeping watch while Conan, Kiba, and Shino rested. In the same room as Naruto and Itachi, Jiraiya was occupied with a new Icha Icha volume while Sasuke remained unconscious. Naruto was asked by everyone if he really trusted Conan, but the blonde clarified that he had used his truth blood scroll to test her. For Gaara and Jiraiya, who'd been there before, that seemed sufficient, but the others appeared pretty doubtful. It made no difference. As soon as Conan set foot in Konoha, she would be questioned once more. The blonde Junin complained to himself, it's stupid of me that I don't remember how many. But one of his eyes is a Sharingan and he carries at least 6 more in his arm. Yes, and he also has Senju Hashirama's DNA implanted into himself. A fusion of such can mean a few things, according to the Uchiha history records I've read. Such as Izanagi, Izanami or a Rinnegan manifestation. All of them are quite worrisome. Itachi clarified. We'll have to ambush him. Killing him would be significantly easier if he doesn't have time to activate the Sharingan sequence needed for Izanagi or Izanami. Sharingan sequence? Not necessarily a sequence. To active a dujutsu technique, a constant amount of chakra needs to flow in one or two Sharingan eyes for a certain amount of time. For example, I need to pour a constant flow of chakra into my right eye to be able to perform Amaterasu. And it is quite a big amount. For Uchiha who relies on dujutsu, an ambush is the greatest worry. An Uchiha who relies on dujutsu, don't they all? With a nod in response, Naruto received an explanation. Not all Uchiha specialize in Tsukiyomi, Amaterasu, Susanoo, Izanagi, Izanami or Kamui. Some use it just for copying or predicting. I hold a few secret dujutsu of my own, having taken my parents' eyes. No other Uchiha has ever gained these techniques, as it seems no other Uchiha has ever taken the eyes of their elders. That you have the ability to see into the future? Naruto conjectured. Yes, the Shoraizu. I hold 3 other dujutsu techniques: Kaisushin, Yodomi and Limbo. Itachi was beaming. When we're in Konoha, I'll tell you the power of these 3. Can you take Danzo? I am a true Uchiha, he is but an imposter. If Sasuke deserves that Junin rank, then he will suffice as my backup. However, I am sure the Hokage won't allow just us to do this, if she even allows this entire operation of ours. I will be there, definitely, but we won't be doing things in Konoha. Jiraiya decided to take part in the discussion. You're going to use Hiraishin to teleport that old geezer away, huh? Yes. A double ambush. If Tsunade-sama allows it, we will take Danzo out far away from Konoha. And if what you say is true, Itachi, then I agree that Sasuke should land the killing blow. Yes. His mind is in turmoil. I cannot predict his line of thoughts or actions. If he kills, no, after he kills Danzo, I can see whether he has some form of closure. As of now, I still don't know whether he is still willing to fight for and protect Konoha.
So this was the end of the series. I hope you enjoyed it. To watch more series like this, subscribe to my channel. Till then, we weeb offline.